Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the 2025 Annual Meeting of the Hollis School District. Your regular moderator, Liz Brown, is called away and not available for this evening, but I've been duly appointed and sworn in as your moderator pro tem. I call this meeting to order. I'd like to start with the Pledge of Allegiance. Those who can, please stand. Thank you. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, undivided, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Please remain standing. I'd like to introduce third grade students from HPS, being led by music teacher Carrie Cormier. Thank you very much. Good job. Third grade students from HPS, led by Carrie Cormier. I would like to invite all veterans and serving members of our military to stand and be recognized. Thank you for your service. I'd like to invite School Board Chair Carol Roy to introduce members of the school board.
I'm not third grade height. Hi everybody, good evening. I'm Carol Roy, Chair of the Hollis School Board. Over here we have Raphael Zach, he's our Vice Chair, and Wake de Pasquale, she's our Secretary. We have member Jessica Lehens and member Amy Kellner. Thank you all for coming tonight.
I invite Budget Committee Chair Tom Guillen to introduce members of the Budget Committee.
Happens every year. Good evening, everyone. I'm Tom Guillen. Rafi Zach from the school board is a representative of the BudCom. Seated at your right on the table, Mark Ledoux is a select board representative, Mike Harris, Darlene Mann, Chris Hyde, Mike Levitt, and absent this evening is Mark Coast. Thank you.
And I'd like to invite Superintendent Andy Corey to introduce members of the administration.
Good evening, and thank you for coming out. Superintendent-elect Gina Bergskog, Business Administrator Kelly Seeley, Director of Student Services Lauren DeGennaro, Assistant Business Director Donna Smith, Hughes Principals Candy Fowler, HPS Principal Paula Ispicki, Curriculum Coordinator for Hollis Abby Diaz, and Coordinator of Special Education Sarah Prue. Thank you all.
have a number of folks here helping us out. Our regular attorney, Jim O'Shaughnessy, is home sick with the flu, I'm told. We have Michael Malaguti, who is filling in. Our district clerk is Diane Levitt. Supervisors of the checklist and ballot clerks are on the back checking folks in, as are the assistants and counters, who are also in the back. There are 2 fire exits in this building, in this room, in the back corners. The fire department would like to ask you to please keep them clear. This meeting is being streamed, and you can find it on the SAU 41 website by clicking on, where is it? Voter information, resources, board meetings on demand, and it should be right near the top. Also on SAU41.org, if you click on resources, then voter information, then annual meeting materials, Hollis FY26 budget, you can find a copy of the final meeting warrant, which is also posted in the back of the building. The MS-27, which is the official budget form that contains the budget, detailed budget by line item, and a copy of this presentation. We're almost done with meeting and election week. We have this night, and then we have one more. Hollis Town meeting will be Saturday, starting at 9 o'clock in the high school gym. We are here tonight to discuss and act on the subjects brought forward on the warrant by your school board. To do so effectively, we need rules which provide order and structure to the business of the meeting. Rules must be set for each meeting so folks understand how to get things done. I will propose a set of rules, then ask the voters to adopt them. Once adopted, it takes a 2/3 vote to change them. As a reminder, Robert's Rules is only a guide. They do not control how this meeting is run. You can find a copy of my rules in the Hollis Town Report on page 223. In the next few slides, I will touch on a few points. If you wish to speak, come to the microphone and show your voting card. Please wait to be recognized by the moderator. This multi-purpose room is not designed as a meeting hall, so it is sometimes very difficult to hear. Announce your name and address clearly so the clerk can hear it. You may speak only once until all other first-time speakers have a chance. Your time is limited to 2 minutes and cannot be yielded or transferred to someone else. Sponsors of amendments may have 5 minutes. When you get close to your time limit, I will give you a signal. When you're out of time, I will give you a second signal. Be germane and, if possible, brief. Avoid repeating points that have already been made. Above all, be courteous. It is possible to disagree without being disagreeable. Speakers are limited to registered voters from Hollis, members of the school administration for presentations or to answer questions, and District Council Malaguti. Other people may speak if allowed by a majority vote of the voters here in the room. Disruptive behavior or personal attacks are out of line, out of bounds, and out of order. To clarify, speaking without being recognized or failing to stop when your time is run out are examples of disruptive behavior. The moderator is responsible for keeping the meeting on track and maintaining order. If things get out of hand, the moderator has various tools to work with. The purpose of a point of order is to bring to the moderator's attention that the meeting rules are not being followed. If you raise a point of order, please be clear about which rule or rules are not being followed. The motion can also be used to appeal a ruling of the moderator. It cannot be used to ask a question nor make a motion. Those can only be done when the voter has the floor. If you wish to make an amendment, You may do so when it's your turn at the podium. If the amendment is longer than 10 words, please write it down legibly and bring it to me after you propose it. Dollar amendments should be made in final dollars, not percentages or amounts to be added or subtracted. Amendments to the operating budget only affect the bottom line, unless you are completely zeroing out a line item. Otherwise, the school board has the authority to move funds around as they believe are in the best interests of the district. If a line item on the MS-27 is zeroed out, then the school board may not spend any funds on that item. Over the past few meetings, I have been trying different approaches to how we end debate. Listening to feedback from voters, this is my proposal for this meeting. A motion to end debate may be made only after waiting for your turn in line. It may not be made after making a speech, and I will not accept it if there has not been sufficient debate, in my opinion. For example, the first speaker after discussion is opened should not try to end debate. The motion is debatable and requires a 2/3 vote to pass. If the motion passes, debate ends immediately. All voters still in line should return to their seats. At that time, the item under discussion is voted on. This is a change from previous meetings. I will not allow a motion to pass over at this meeting. The purpose of a motion to table is to pause consideration of an article. It is not debatable and cannot be made until the article is brought to the floor for discussion. The article requires only a simple majority. The article can be taken off the table again by a majority vote. However, it can also be restricted from reconsideration, which leaves the article on the table. A motion to reconsider is useful and appropriate if new information comes to light or spending approaches the 10% rule limit. It allows the voters to discuss a matter further and vote again. The motion can only be made by a person who voted on the prevailing side. It is debatable and requires a simple majority to pass. A motion to restrict reconsideration does not block reconsideration of a previous motion or article. If passed, it requires that any subsequent reconsideration of the vote cannot occur for at least 7 days. The motion can be applied to any previously completed and declared vote. The motion is not debatable and is in order at any time the voter has the floor. Articles will be taken up in the order listed in the warrant. All articles must be acted upon before the meeting can be dissolved. Acted upon does not mean that the article receives a final vote. It simply means that the meeting takes some clear action on the article. For example, tabling an article is sufficient. The order that articles are taken up can be changed by a 2/3 vote of the members present. My copy of Robert's Rule is more than an inch thick. It is simply not possible in a few slides to take into account all of the possible motions and situations that can occur. The moderator has the responsibility for making rulings on such matters as things come up. However, this is your meeting. State law also gives the voters at the meeting the ability to appeal and overrule any interpretation that the moderator may make. If you disagree with a ruling, come to the microphone and raise a point of order, being clear what you are appealing. A second is required. The meeting then has the opportunity to discuss and vote on the ruling. An appeal is successful by a simple majority vote. If the ruling is a direct application of one of the meeting rules, you need to suspend or change the rules rather than make an appeal. So shall the Hollis School District vote to adopt the rules for this meeting as proposed by the moderator? Moved by Mr. Harris, second by Mr. Ledoux. Mr. Garuba.
I move that we amend the proposed rules in regard to the motion to end debate. And my amendment is to allow anyone who is presently online to say their piece or to speak until the debate is cut off.
All right, is there a second? Ms. Lepalco. The motion on the floor,
May I speak to that, sir?
yes, in a minute. The motion on the floor is to amend the rules. I just read that if a motion to end debate passes, people in line don't get a chance to speak. The motion on the floor is to allow anybody still in line at the time the motion is made to speak. Mr. Garuba.
So specifically, we use these rules during the co-op meeting, and I think I counted 2 or 3 times where there might have been only 2 people standing here in line, and yet they lost their opportunity. And in some cases, it was 1 person more than once, and it really only would have taken the patience of 4 minutes to allow folks to hear their neighbors. So that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Is there further debate on the motion? Ms. Opalka.
Chris Opelka, Moore Hill Road. I've looked back into my archive of town reports, and this rule that we had up until last year has been standing written for at least since 2017. We are the town meetings, it is our deliberative session and voting session. We are charged to deliberate reasons for and against a measure to vote on town business. The 2023 rule has worked for a long time and should continue as it was written in 2023. I know.
Further discussion on the amendment. If you are in favor of amending the rules to allow people in line to speak, please raise your cards. Thank you. If you are opposed, please raise your cards. I believe the opposed have it, so the motion fails. Mr. Buteau.
Brandon Buteau, Buttonwood Drive. I have a question about the motion to end debate. When you were going through your reading of it, you indicated that it was a debatable motion, but the slide said it was not debatable, and the printed version says it is not debatable, and it is my understanding it's not supposed to be debatable.
You are correct. I misspoke. It is not a debatable motion.
Thank you. I just wanted to clarify.
Ms. Opelka.
I just have a question about Rule 27. I'm sorry, I think that you had some, I want to make sure I understand it. It is the motions to postpone indefinitely or pass over.
Yes. I'm looking at my copy of the rule.
Okay. Is that to be brought to the floor after standing in line?
I'm not allowing a motion to pass over.
At all?
At this
Okay.
meeting.
Okay. What about postpone indefinitely?
Yes, you would have to wait in line to make that motion.
Okay.
And it is required a second and is debatable.
And I, only because of what went on in the co-op meeting, I think that it should also be after the article has been read in its entirety, because people were getting up and making motions to postpone indefinitely or pass over before things were even read.
Yeah, that's fine. I don't have a problem with that.
Okay,
That's
I
how
don't
I
know
was
about
going
the other people do.
I understand. That's how I was going to do that tonight. So that doesn't require an amendment.
Okay. I'd like to talk about Rule 6, 7, 8, and 9 in this year's town report. I wish to amend these rules to revert back to Rule 6 as written in the 2023 Hollis Town Report, which says time is generally limited to 2 minutes per speaker. You will see a signal if your time is running out. Extra time will be allowed for questions and answers. Sponsors of petition articles are allowed 10 minutes to present their case, and voters proposing an amendment are allowed up to 5 minutes. Again, I feel that this is our deliberative session and voting session. We are to deliberate reasons for and against the measure and vote on town business. It's worked for a long time, and I think that 2 minutes for a petitioner and 5 minutes for the amender doesn't seem quite reasonable.
There are no petition articles in this meeting,
Right?
so that's not a concern. In terms of amenders, I think the rule says, as written, says 5 minutes. And I think what you just read says 5 minutes.
Amenders, yes, but it's the 10 minutes for the presenter. And I didn't know if, I guess we can't change the rules to be for all of the meetings.
No, you can only affect the rules for tonight.
Okay. So because we don't have any petition, that's not an issue. Okay. Thank you.
Is there further discussion on the rules? Seeing none, all in favor of adopting the rules as presented, please raise your cards. Thank you. All opposed? And the rules are adopted. We have a full warrant tonight. Eight articles and the usual anything else. We have 2 contracts to discuss, one for the support staff and one for the teachers. We have SAU budget, which is needs to be approved by all 3 districts. We have SAU Building Maintenance Trust, the School Building Maintenance Trust, a study for a possible expansion of HPS, contingency fund, and the operating budget. Mr. Guillen.
Good evening. A little afraid to touch this. There we go. I don't know. Trying to recall some of my quips from prior years, but nothing comes to mind. We've got a couple slides here to talk about the impact on tax rates for what we're contemplating this evening, and also what the effect will be on the overall town property tax rate if all the articles in all of the meetings pass. So this first slide here is the Hollis School District only, what we're considering tonight. I'm not going to try to read off all these numbers to you. The high points here are in terms of looking year over year. The operating budget only goes up about 3%. Warrant articles are the big mover, 76%, almost $900,000, $850,000. That's driven almost entirely by the collective bargaining agreements that we'll be voting on this evening. This occurs every time. Typically, for example, the teacher contract is a 3-year agreement. Once the first year is passed, the subsequent years go into the operating budget. So every 3rd year, there are no increases in the operating budget, so you see a big increase. It moves down to the warrant article line. Revenues are down. I don't want to call this artificial, but we're conservative in how we budget for revenue because of uncertainties with state aid or federal grants. This number typically goes up by the end of the year and eases the tax effort. As you can see, last year we had $1.2 million in revenue, but are projecting only $870,000. State aid and state retained tax are fairly flat. That yields an overall tax effort increase of 12.7%, which would increase the Hollis School District portion of the tax rate 11.5% to $6.40. We have to pay an additional state education tax. The portion assigned to the Hollis School District works out to 62 cents. So an overall Hollis School District tax rate of just over $7.02, which represents a 10% increase over last year. So this is how it ties into the overall tax rate. Again, the upper left there assumes all the articles and all the meetings pass as they're written. That did occur at the co-op tax, or co-op local tax rate reflects that all the articles were passed there. So the town, invite everyone to join us Saturday for the town meeting, 449. You see the increase from the prior page on the second line. The Hollis School District local tax increases at 11.5%. State tax is going down slightly. Co-op went up 7%. The state tax for the co-op went down slightly, as did the county tax. The overall effect for the Hollis tax rate would be an increase of about 7.4% to a rate of $19.05. You know, that comes after last year. I think we had an increase of 7%, and the year prior to that, an increase of 17%. So after a couple decades of relatively low tax increases, we've seen some real movement in the last few years. I think that's it.
Thank you, Tom. Article 1. I will remind you that if even the people in the front seat can read these eye charts, all these slides are available online, so if you have a tablet or even a phone, you might be able to follow better online. To see if the school district will vote to approve the cost items included in the 3-year collective bargaining agreement reached between the Hollis School Board and the Hollis Education Support Staff Association for the 2025-26 school year, which calls for the following increases in support staff salaries and benefits at the current staffing levels. For fiscal year 25-26, estimated increase is $350,844. And further, to raise and appropriate the sum of $350,844 for the first year, 2025-26 school year. Such sum representing the negotiated increase over the 2024-25 salaries and fringe benefits. Majority vote required. The estimated net tax impact is 12 cents a thousand. The school board recommends this Article 500. The Budget Committee recommends this Article 800, moved by Carol Roy, seconded by Rafi Zach. I will also note that collective bargaining agreements cannot be amended. What this body can do is an up and down vote. Ms. Wake DePaula. De Pasquale. Sorry.
After what happened to Tom, I don't know if I want to touch this thing. So, good evening. I'm Ann Wake DePasquale. I have the pleasure of presenting to you tonight the collective bargaining agreement between the Hollis School District and the Hollis Education Support Staff Association. I was a part of this negotiation, as was member Amy Kellner. So, the first thing that we need to understand was what was the situation at the bargaining table. We have, I'll start with HSD. They came to the table with a concern that last year their insurance increase was 18%. As a result of that, people who had insurance were taking home less pay, and it hit our support staff members very hard, as it did our teachers. They wanted to change some antiquated titles, so provided this is passed this evening, the lovely people who are greeting you at Hollis Primary School and at the upper elementary school in the main office will no longer be secretaries. They will be our administrative assistants and our senior administrative assistants. And they were interested in simplifying paperwork and making payroll more efficient, which we were interested in as well. For us, we have been consistently facing hiring challenges, particularly with our paraprofessionals, which I'll get to soon. That challenge with hiring paraprofessionals has resulted in a high cost of contracted employees. In addition, we also wanted to improve efficiency. Let me make this a little bit clearer. So why is it so hard to hire paraprofessionals? Our labor market. If you go to Target, Walmart, Amazon, you're going to get $15 per hour or more for unskilled work. Some offer health benefits to employees starting with as little as 25 hours a week. Unfilled paraprofessional positions require contracting through employment services, which costs 3 times that of our hired employees. What's the result of that? If you have been paying attention to our BudCom meetings, we are over budget right now. And the reason for that is because we do not budget for when we have to hire outside and not hire ourselves, paraprofessionals or any other position, and as a consequence, we have to find that money somewhere else. So right now, we have 11, or at the time of this presentation, we had 11 employees that were contracted, costing us 3 times more than it would have been if we had hired our own. As a result also of this situation, we do not have insurance for our paraprofessionals. We are losing paraprofessionals to the co-op and other districts. You're going to hear me talk about insurance tonight. There are many aspects of this contract this evening that we're presenting to you, but what matters to you, what results in the bottom line, the $350,844, is that we are offering our paraprofessionals now insurance for 30 hours. Every single district that touches the border of Hollis right now offers this benefit, with the exception of Brookline. So who comprises HSD? HSD has 39 paraprofessionals right now, 6 food service workers, custodial workers, our administrative assistants, and our regular education support. Of those people right now, you'll see we only have 15 people who are eligible for insurance. So if you want to work with children and come to our school, you're looking at somewhere between $14 and $17 an hour to start at, and you are probably not going to be eligible for health insurance. It is very difficult to attract quality employees with that kind of a situation. So if we provide this service to our paraprofessionals and our other 30-hour employees, the majority of those eligible are going to be our paras, making the total 59 people. So highlights, if you look at year 1, you see that's your 350,844. Year 2, it drops to 198,801. And year 3, $137,121. How does this happen? So first of all, we are capping the insurance. The first year, we'll be offering $804 a month for all plans. That would be the equivalent to what we anticipate would be 75% of a single plan. We anticipate the participants to cost another $38,511. And then, of course, there's a salary increase. Some of you might be thinking, we offer this benefit to the paraprofessionals. What did they give up in return? Of course, HSD asked for a larger salary increase than what you see in front of you. We are, with this deal, 2% for those who are on step and 2.5% for those who are off step. The people right now who are in the HSD organization who qualify for as full-time employees and qualify for insurance, they are only getting that salary increase. They could have negotiated for more. HSD agreed to take a lower salary increase because they acknowledge this wonderful benefit that we're doing for the majority of those in their union. So we appreciate them taking that for the team. By comparison, the co-op HSD negotiated a 2.75% increase for on-step and 3.4% increase for off-step. So as you see, I think that you really should pull this up on your phone. I don't think anyone wants to hear me go through all of this, but our cost increases change in year 2 and year 3. That will have to be approved each year. Year 2, we increased the cap to $1,158 per month, which is estimated to be about 100% of a single plan, plus a $1,000 opt-out, and the following year it'd be $1,250. Why does hiring our own matter? I wanted you to be able to see the numbers of the salary difference when we have to contract out versus when we're able to hire our own. Of course, there are many qualitative reasons why we would rather hire our own. We are building a community. These are the people who are working with our most vulnerable students, and they touch every single child in our schools. They're working with everybody's children. I'm sure many of you have heard your kid come home and talk about the lovely person who assists their teacher and how important they are to them. But if we're talking just quantitatively, why does this make sense? Right now, for the 11 contracted paras, we're looking at about $62,727 each, whereas if we had hired them ourselves, it would be about $25,000. So you're looking at that number of $689,997. That's why we are over budget. Whereas had we hired our own and we were able to pick our own, it would be $275,000. That's a difference of $414,997. So that is a huge difference, and if you go down the column, it's over $1.4 million over 3 years. That doesn't mean that's all that we're saving, because of course this is just the salaries. We are talking now about adding insurance onto that. However, when you calculate the cost of insurance, we end up actually with a small savings of about $82,122. Yes, these are small dollars, but it's not an increase. So right now, when you're looking at this and you're thinking $350,000 plus, we're still paying. If we don't give this benefit, we are still paying this cost. It's just coming from somewhere else. So this is a wonderful deal for the town. It's wonderful for our support staff. And it allows us to meet the goals that we had sought. So we have an ability now to retain and attract high-quality employees. We have a competitive support staff insurance benefits in a difficult labor market. It ensures favorable management rights and includes clarifying language. It improves efficiency in time card submission and payroll processing, and it maintains reasonable salary increases for the next 3 years. So for our children, for our wonderful people who serve them, and for yourselves in your own pocketbooks, I highly encourage you to support this article.
Article 1, is there discussion on Article 1? Seeing none, I'd like to count the vote. Melinda? So what we're going to have you do is at the appropriate time, raise your cards and hold them up so that our counters can count them. Ready? All in favor of approving this collective bargaining agreement, please raise your cards. Thank you. All opposed to this agreement, please raise your cards. Thank you. You can put them down. Survey says ayes 214, noes 24. The article is adopted. Article 2. This is also a collective bargaining agreement which is not amendable. To see if the school district will vote to approve the cost items included in the 3-year collective bargaining agreement reached between the Hollis School Board and the Hollis Education Association for the 2025-26, 2026-27, and 2027-28 school years, which calls for the following increases in professional staff salaries and benefits at the current staffing levels. For fiscal year 25-26, $387,396. For fiscal year 26-27, $430,174. For fiscal 27-28, $425,360. And further, to raise and appropriate the sum of $387,396 for the 2025-26 fiscal year, such sum representing the negotiated increase over the 2024-25 salaries and fringe benefits, majority vote required. The estimated net tax impact is 13 cents a thousand. The school board recommends this Article 500. The Budget Committee does not recommend this article by a vote of 7-1-0. Moved by Carol Roy, seconded by Rafi Zach. Ms. Roy.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. I'm going to tempt fate and try to move this a little bit. Tom, did you see that? It happened without any noise. Member Jessica Lehens and I were pleased to negotiate the Hollis Education Association contract this past fall with the support of Superintendent-elect Gina Bergskog, Business Administrator Kelly Seeley, and Legal Counsel Tom Clausen. The negotiation was respectful, collaborative, and successful. Going into it, the district had 4 goals. Oh, I think I went forward. We bounced. Here we go. Here are our 4 goals. To maintain or increase our management rights, incorporate the learnings from the salary committee, ensure that the district is competitive in attracting and retaining the best staff, and to make decisions that balance what is best for the taxpayers with what is best for our students. Here's how we were able to accomplish that. Management rights. We wanted to add language further clarifying and regulating unapproved leave time, maintenance of the credential for which a staff member was hired, and timing and notice of resignation. Anecdotally, everyone knew how things were supposed to work, but we wanted to make sure all of it was in writing, so it was referenceable, defendable, and enforceable. We wanted to eliminate the intermediate term income protection, or ITIP, and replace it with an HEA member-managed sick bank. And we wanted to consolidate health insurance plans down to a single offering. Salary Committee. Formation of the Salary Committee was dictated by the last contract negotiation 3 years ago, and the committee ran September 2022 through May 2024. The desire was to examine wage schedules and pay scales of comparable districts and then define a clearer and more consistent progression that benefited all Hollis School District staff members. Several different Hollis School Board members participated on the committee throughout that time and engaged in regular open discussion with HEA representatives to establish recommendations and common ground in preparation for this negotiation. This committee work provided necessary insight so we would know the impact of several of the decisions and offerings, including adjustment to the salary step table and health insurance cost coverage by the district, which leads perfectly into goal number 3, ensuring the district is competitive in attracting and retaining the best staff. This one's the big one. Hiring teachers for the Hollis School District historically has been very easy. There always were strong candidates in large numbers applying for any openings we had. The teaching profession and individuals' desire to enter it drastically changed during and after the pandemic response. The applicant pool is significantly smaller, and for the first time, job offers made by the Hollis School District have been turned down, and 2 teachers left mid-year. We looked very closely at why that was happening. Until this contract, Hollis was one of only 3 districts in the state of New Hampshire to offer capped dollar amounts toward staff members' health insurance rather than percentages of cost coverage. This meant that if cost of insurance fluctuated out of sorts, the teachers bore the entire brunt, whereas if they were employed at a district that offered percentages of cost coverage, the risk and responsibility would be shared. The candidates only needed to go down the street to Amherst or Milford or Bedford or the co-op to receive that coverage. Losing top candidates for this reason is unacceptable to us when we can make that adjustment. So in response to the current market conditions, we did. We decided to remain competitive by offering 100% coverage to single, 90% coverage to 2-person, and 80% coverage to family plan holders. We have selected the health insurance plan that is lowest cost to the district and the taxpayers while still meeting our teachers' needs. To clarify, we are not committing to a specific plan for the entirety of the 3 years regardless of its cost. Rather, we will evaluate the cost of plans coming into each year and where fiscally appropriate and necessary, switch to another plan as the contract progresses. Up on the screen now, you will see that these percentages are very close to, if not the same, as the dollar amount caps we had been offering. It is the shared assumption of risk and responsibility that our current staff and candidates considering joining our exceptional district are looking for, and we have chosen to deliver. There have been concerns that the Hollis School District may be assuming too much risk by using percentages. Here is a chart showing the Hollis Brookline Co-op School District's costs over the last 10 years using the percentage coverage model. While there are fluctuations, they are within reason. I know it's small, I apologize. I made it as big as I could. Get those glasses up there. I know I can't even read it on the screen in front of me. I'm so sorry to everybody in the back. In addition to the adjustment in health insurance cost coverage, we expanded the salary table to 20 steps and moved all staff members back onto the table. This one's a little tiny too, but we can talk about it if you have questions. This means that regardless of time with the district, each staff member will receive a 2% increase each year, plus whatever step increase they have earned. With the previous on-step, off-step model, there was no consistency across the board where increases were concerned. This change directly addresses the objective of the salary committee. Additionally, we have opted to offer deeply regulated school loan repayment. Of the $20,000 per year that we make available, staff members on steps 1 through 5 only, which are the newest teachers, usually fresh out of college, may request reimbursement. That reimbursement is paid directly to the institution rather than the employee, and the employee may get $1,000 per year from that $20,000 bank that we make available. And finally, we elected to keep the longevity bonuses, which are paid out every 5 years, starting after the staff member's 15th year of service. This is not an annual longevity bonus. The values of these bonuses range from $1,000 to approximately $3,050, depending on years of service and professional/educational achievement level, such as master's plus 45. The longevity bonuses are totally independent of the salary table and progression and act as a thank you for loyal years of service to the Hollis School District. The board has a responsibility to the district and you, the taxpayers, to make sound financial decisions during negotiations and ensure that the level of education you have come to expect in this town does not falter. This remains top of mind throughout. We also have a responsibility to the children of the district to ensure they are receiving top quality education from top quality educators. It is our privilege to be entrusted with providing this assurance. These factors drove the choices that we made for this contract, such as keeping the salary increase percentage low and flat over the 3 years, but consistent across the entire staff, removing the extra health insurance plans, establishing a sick bank, and increasing our management rights, all of the items that we just reviewed. We are proud of the contract that we have brought forth to you for approval tonight and are confident that this will contribute to the continued tradition of education excellence in Hollis for years to come. I ask that you do support Article 2 and support our wonderful Hollis teachers. Thank you so much.
Mr. Guillen.
Thank you. As you can see from the top bullet, the Budget Committee did not support the 3-year contract for the concerns that I'll cover here in a moment. It's not a reflection on the teachers. We value them. I think we have some real concerns about the cost of this deal and some of the provisions in the deal. So first off, the cost. Each year, and I think Carol explained this, teachers will get an increase of a step, which is a move down the step table, and they also get this, this contract would provide a 2% increase in the value of the table. So a step is 2.8% increase, and adjustment of the table is 2% for a total of 4.8%. Inflation has come down significantly since the time the last deal was struck 3 years ago. And as you see here in the bullet, someone who was on the step table throughout the entire 6 years of the previous agreement this year, and the agreement, if this were to pass, would experience a 34% increase in salary over 6 years. And we felt that it's important to compensate the teachers, but felt that this was beyond reasonable given that the fact that inflation has come down so significantly. Another point here, and I made this when I was talking about the tax increases, if we pass all of the articles at all the meetings this cycle. The last 3 years, in 23, our average tax bill went up 17%, 7% last year, and will go up 7.4% if all the articles at all the meetings this year pass. And that's a cumulative increase of over 3 years of 34%. So that's just a coincidence that's not 34% related to the first bullet here, but it is the effect of the cumulative increases that all the voters have supported over the last few years. Removal of the dollar caps, we thought that was an important provision, management rights. There was some concern that given big increases, particularly last year, that it put an undue burden on the teachers. However, we felt that type of thing has been addressed by sidebars in the past and could be addressed again if that were to occur. The expanded step table, again, as employees become long tenured, they've tended to move off the table and are rewarded with other means to increase their compensation without using the step table. We thought that extending or increasing the step table and putting more employees back on it will limit the ability to manage those salaries effectively. And finally, Carol mentioned longevity bonuses. We thought that was kind of counter to the notion of expanding the step table, where we're taking tenured employees. The deal would put tenured employees back on the step table. They would enjoy the same salary adjustments in the table and steps, but the longevity bonuses would remain in place. And I think that's the summary of the Budget Committee concerns. Thank you.
Article 2, is there discussion on Article 2? Yes, sir.
Jonathan Fontaine, 42 Ironworks Lane. So one of the helpful things when determining some of these monetary components, at least at the co-op, was cost per pupil adjustments. Does the Budget Committee have any projection of what the cost per pupil would be if we were to adopt this particular article? Are we still below the average for the state? Are we moving up on that average chart? How does that end up looking?
Short answer is no. The cost per pupil is not simply taking the total cost and divide by the number of students. Concord Department of Education makes adjustments, takes out things like transportation and some other factors. Having said that, and I don't have the presentation open in front of me, at the public hearing we did talk about cost per pupil as it compares to, I think, a population of about 109 other school districts that we consider to be comparable, and we're below the 50th percentile in cost per pupil. I don't know, there's a lag in that because it's calculated by the state, but I'm not sure exactly where we'd be if this were to go through.
Sure, that makes sense.
Okay,
Thanks.
does that help?
Yeah, one other question I had was for Carol, actually. Can you explain, well, two things. One, a little bit more about the sick bank versus what we had originally. And the secondary one is, were there any retirement or other compensation items put into the contract or adjusted versus adding the longer term staff members into the step chart, like in terms of balancing out okay, you're coming up on retirement, yes, your compensation during the retirement period, the town is going to do X, Y, or Z versus we're going to increase your salary?
I'm going to answer the second one first because it's easier.
Yeah.
No.
Okay.
So,
That's pretty easy.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's good.
the first one is about the sick bank. So a sick bank is populated with, I'm popping on this, I'm so sorry. A sick bank is populated with days off, and how it usually is populated, and I'll give an example. They do it at the co-op, and they do it in Brookline as well, the sick bank? They do it in Brookline as well. And so every member of the staff gives one of their days off into a bank, and that group of people manages the bank. So if somebody needs extra days off, they get to go to their brethren and say, this is why I need this. And so from what I've heard, because obviously we haven't experienced that yet in this district, but we will after the vote tonight, is that it helps them police themselves. So the I will never say it correct, Gina's laughing at me. The ITIP plan, the intermediate term income protection, it was that you would be paid 80% of your salary for an extended period of time. So it actually was going to be more expensive for the district to keep that versus a sick bank. Now, to be clear, we didn't dive too deeply into the sick bank in this presentation because it wasn't necessarily something that was a hot button issue. But what we decided to do in order to not take away PTO days, paid time off days, from the teachers right away with putting this in, because you like to keep about 300 days in the sick bank, we as the district are pre-populating that sick bank initially. As new staff members are added, they will, no matter what the total is with this pre-population, take one of their days and contribute it. And then they will be able to administer it. Gina and I were discussing this, and we can talk kind of about the co-op sick bank. It was years and years and years for them to deplete that bank. It obviously got depleted heavily during the pandemic response with the required absences and things like that, but it has built back up. So we foresee that this pre-population of the sick bank and the addition by the new employees, bless you, is going to last for many years here in Hollis.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Maureen Masterson, Milton Place. My question is for Carol. Sorry. Quickly.
Getting my steps in.
Hi, Carol.
Hi.
I was listening to the deliberations of the hearing, and was the primary reason for the budget committee or for the voting down was it really the health insurance cap of percentage versus? Yeah, you're shaking your head. Yeah, yeah.
Well, this is kind of more of a question for them. I can tell you what they said, but
Okay.
they can probably do that. But that's the reason why Tom wanted to address the concerns because of the vote. Do you want to come up and chat about this specifically, or? It was one.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I guess my question is, do we know, how many other schools or districts have the cap,
The dollar caps?
fixed cap versus the percentage? How many have the fixed cap?
Brookline, Salem, Hollis, in the entirety of the state of New Hampshire. Everybody else uses percentage model.
Oh, okay, thank you. So I will be voting in favor of this. My big fear is teacher retention. One of my children had a substitute teacher for a duration of a whole school year. And that was a long time. They did great. It was a para. They did wonderful. But, attracting teachers is tough. And that was pre-COVID. So I do feel it's very important. So yes, I will definitely be voting in favor of it. And I hope everybody else does too. Thank you.
And I can note that we already have, no, you can sit, sorry. We actually have experienced 2 retirements, or will be experiencing 2 retirements of very long tenured teachers here in the Hollis School District this year. So those are 2 full-time teacher positions that we will need to attract the top applicants for.
Mr. Berry.
Yes, Dave Perry, 3 West Hollis Road. Couple questions. One relates to the method of compensation. I didn't see anywhere in this presentation anything about merit raises or things related to goal achievement, compensation tied to excellence versus average performance. Is there anything in the compensation of our teachers that address those points?
A great question. In the contract language, and I'm thinking back to the words, so forgive me, I'm digging deep. As they move through the step table, do you mind popping to that step table? It's back a few slides, please, sir. One more, keep going, there, right there. So as you are here, right, say if you come in at step 1 with your bachelor's degree, that's what that B means. The following year you move to step 2. So as you go down the steps, it's the time you're here, and you move across the table once you take graduate classes, achieve other professional and educational things. So we don't have merit increases in the plan, as far as I understand. That has not been part of it at all. They're affirming. Thank you for confirming. What we do have is an opportunity for the superintendent, along with the principal who's in charge of the staff member, if there is a performance issue, they can hold them back from moving forward a step until there's performance improvement. But there is nothing that says, you've done a great job this year, we're just gonna throw some money at you. That's what the longevity bonuses are for, as thank yous. And of course, then we have the new compensation schedule with this new salary table.
Yeah, it's my belief in an organization that requires strong professional skills that excellence should be compensated in a different way than average. And so I would not support this. My second question relates to conflict of interest. I don't know what the rules of conflict of interest are. Are direct beneficiaries of what do we call these? They're not motions.
Warrant
They're
articles?
Sorry, articles.
We got you.
Yeah. If there are direct beneficiaries of an article, are they required to recuse themselves? Are they asked to recuse themselves?
No.
How does that work?
They are, some of them, not all of them, but some of them are registered voters in Hollis, and they are entitled and do vote.
Okay. Yep. Pretty good return on investment. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Ms. McDonald.
Erica McDonald, Truell Road, Hollis. First of all, I would just want to say thank you very much to the board and to the staff for this contract and keeping in mind the needs of the taxpayers as well as the staff. Just 2 real quick questions. What happens if this fails? Maybe it's not a quick question, but what happens if this fails?
What happens there is the current contract continues, and they go back to the bargaining table, presumably to produce a new contract for the next annual meeting.
Okay, so there's nothing that this body could do to change this article tonight?
No.
Thank you.
Ms. Opelka.
Chris Opelka, Moore Hill Road. I want to thank the teachers and school board and the budget committee for the job that you do. I did visually observe the budget hearing meeting, and I've also read the minutes. I thought the budget committee put a lot of thought into the reasons why they did not support the article. And I did appreciate also Tom Enright's input regarding the health plan and how it is working or not working in the taxpayers' favor for the co-op. I don't understand why the step table is redone every time we have a contract to negotiate. It just seems to me that it's some underlying business going on there. I'm glad the Budget Committee shared all their reasons for not supporting it. I thought they had many compelling reasons for not supporting the article, and why, and if the contract did not get approved, they also discussed that. 34% over 6 years comes to 5.6% a year. I don't know anybody who gets that kind of a percent unless they are stellar.
Thank you.
Brian Loveland, Toddy Brook Road, and just want to follow up. The 36% raise is actually not nearly as much as people would think. Like, just a back of the envelope rough calculation, so I may be off by a couple percent, is that inflation has gone up over the last 6 years by about 22%, give or take, depending on which provider you use. So it's not a huge 36% raise where someone who was making $100,000 is now making $136,000. It's something where they are getting a raise because they work their butts off and provide a stellar education to our kids, which is why we're one of the best school districts in the state. To keep that exceptional school district, we need to pay for it. Unfortunately, nothing is free. Taxes are going up, but the return on our investment is stellar in that we're getting one of the best school districts in the state. That has supported our rising home values and our quality of life. The other, just a quick question is, one of the reasons the Budget Committee said that they rejected the new contract was because of the longevity bonus. How much did that cost last year?
Oh, you know. Hold on, we have to do a quick calc, because everybody gets it differently depending on their years of service and status. So give us 1 second. Do we know? Rough number. Right. So just to reiterate, it's once every 5 years. So once you've been here for 15 years and you have continued with the district, not I'm done at 15 years and I get paid as I'm leaving, you re-up your back, you get paid. The value can vary between $1,000 and $3,050 depending on that status. Do you know how many people are in that group of people, between 15 and more? Gina's firing up the laptop. We'll get you that answer in just a moment.
Okay, thank you.
You're very welcome. Thank you.
So we'll move on while the administration figures it out. Yes, sir.
Rude.
She's looking it up. I mean, you have to figure it out. My apologies. Yes, sir.
Long-time listener, first-time caller. Can someone from either the administration or the school board talk about how enrollment has changed for the primary school over the last few years?
Oh, buckle up. You're going to hear a lot about that in one of the later articles. Obviously expanded. That's why my colleague on the board, Ann Wake de Pasquale, is going to be presenting an article later about that expansion study. And she does have a lot of information about that enrollment. I can tell you that we've had to add how many full-time teachers? 5-ish, 5 FTEs in order to accommodate that since the last contract was negotiated.
Okay, so we're maybe we're one of the few districts in New Hampshire who are increasing enrollment, so that seems like a big deal. You mentioned that it's been harder to retain and attract top talent. As far as cost goes, it feels like that's what the cost in the market is. I think you made a good case about how the changing the cap to a percentage is in line. I don't think we should really hurt our teachers for that, so I support this. Thank you.
I believe if you look at the handout in the back, it does show projections somewhere in there. Yes, ma'am, Ms. Hicks.
Hi, Pam Hicks, 8 Maple Knoll Drive. While we obviously do support our teachers tremendously, we have a huge issue of the taxes that are increasing, and they are not sustainable. And we do have some issues out there concerning testing where we do have falling test scores for science and math. But outside of that, I would like to hear an exact number for what the difference is between the cap and the percentage for the health insurance, where, and I do understand that we're one of few districts that do it this way, but this also has to work for the Hollis taxpayers. And just because it might feel good this year and might sound like it's attracting talent or doing something, this is going to this could significantly impact our tax bill going today and going forward. So I'd like to know exactly what the difference is in the budget to make that change this year, and if there are any projections going forward.
For sure. So one of the eye charts on the slides had that. Drew can pop back to it. Keep going. Keep going. One more. Back. There you go.
I can read
so
it
you
up
can
here.
see here. So forward, back, forward, back. So you can see FY25 numbers across the top. That's what we're existing in. This is our FY25 year. This is year 1, year 2, year 3 of this 3-year teacher's contract, and what those costs look like for single, double, and family plans.
Right, so those are the percentages. Can I have the
There are
dollar
amounts
amounts?
next to it.
I cannot read I'm sitting here and I don't think we should be voting on something that we can't read, or that has to be clear to this voting body.
The presentation is available online.
I know, but we should be able to see it here.
Well, the numbers are next to it.
Okay, so you've got, so those are for the individual plans. I'm talking about the total budget amount. So the full budget amount from what we have budgeted for this year with the cap, and what that total budget number is going to be with changing it to the percentage.
I'm not sure how to answer this question.
You should be able to take a snapshot with
pop
that.
up?
Okay.
Pardon me?
I said you should be able to take a snapshot with your current population.
Yeah, we
Yeah.
sure can, which is why
Okay.
I'm calling these guys up, because I
Right,
don't
no.
have insight into
That's
how
okay,
many
no,
taking insurance.
thank you.
Thank you.
In terms of the cap to the percentage, we don't have that exact calculation here. We've done it at probably 4 or 5 school board meetings, budget presentations. So I am concerned that the information has been out there, and has been out there for a while. In terms of the dollar amounts, the problem will be the change. I have 2 staff members retiring. Those 2 people, like myself, you get to the point where it's only a 2-person plan. I go out and I hire the best, probably going to go on to a family plan. So we don't know the calculation until we get to the fall of exactly what health insurance costs us.
I know, but you guys should have been able to provide us with some type of a set number right now, looking at our current population. And I didn't get to attend those meetings. I had the flu. I had no ability to go. And we should be able to have that information at these meetings where we are expected to vote. I really don't think it's fair that you are asking us to vote on something that you cannot give us a set dollar amount. These are huge dollars amounts. Putting those numbers up there, that's per plan. How many people do you have on your family, your single, and your 2-person?
And again, all that information goes through the budget process during the budget season.
I know, this isn't transparency, though. I don't
Well,
think this is fair.
I disagree, and I respect that.
Okay.
And if you're not satisfied, then I would simply do what I would do in my town, and I would vote no.
All right. There are a lot of residents in this town that are struggling, and we do have to find some fair ways to keep people, but also find ways to provide release to the residents. Drew, can I hand you a piece of paper?
I'm sorry?
May I hand you a piece of paper?
Yes? Mr.
Tom
Enright.
Enright, Orchard Drive. Just a touch of relevant history. I've been in town a while. I voted for at least 30 teacher and support staff contracts. I've never voted against a contract. I have, in my school board years, been on at least 10 negotiating teams. That doesn't mean I know much, but does mean that I'm familiar with the contract, the contract and the process. I oppose the proposed contract because it establishes a new compensation system that unfairly favors the most senior teachers, the highest earners who are now off step. It penalizes the current on-step teachers who are the majority and are the lower earners. For example, in the current contract, the contract we're under today, the on-step teachers receive 16% total salary increases over the past 3 years, very fair and deserved increases. In the proposed contract, those same teachers are reduced to 14.5% salary increases, which takes at least $1,000 or more less in salary increases because of the new compensation system. Penalizing the lower earners is unfair. But that's not the end of the story. If you slowly starve the lower end of the salary spectrum, as the proposed contract does do, the district is sowing the seeds for a hiring and retention problem. It is educationally prudent to push the lower end of the spectrum as high as possible to attract young people to the teaching profession. Consider a starting salary for a Nashua RN with a 4-year nursing degree is $65,000 to $70,000. Our bachelor starting salary is $49,000. Takes 10 years in our system to get to $70,000. That is wrong.
Finish up, Tom.
All right, well, I've got more, so I guess I've got another half minute. So you want me to go back the line?
If you wish, that's fine. You've had your 2 minutes.
Yeah, I know I have.
Thank you.
I think that my question's for you. My name is Karen Ballestieri, Sherwood Drive. First off, I think...
Do you have a voting card?
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes. First off, I think that I'm here for the teachers. I think as a testament to the community, everyone that walked in the door said this is the biggest crowd we've ever had. We're here for the teachers because the amazing teachers that are in this town and support our children every day, retaining them is one thing, but also recognizing their work is another thing. So thank you to all the teachers and all that have come. I will say the comment about stellar staff, it's beyond stellar staff. I think that the voting for the paraprofessionals alone said it all. They're so needed and they're so underpaid at this point. So now we're looking at the teachers. I just need you to help me with one part of this article. When you put this up, I don't know of any teacher friends of mine that are getting 4.5% raises every year and getting like 30-something thousand. You know, can you just explain like how, I guess when you put it up, it stunned me, but I just know for a fact that none of my teacher friends are getting this. So how does it impact like what year you are? I just need an explanation on that.
For sure. So it all goes to that step table. Just come in, keep going.
Oh.
I think that
For sure.
Many of us have this, but to explain it clearly so everybody understands it, so we're not reading these big numbers and panicking.
For
and
sure.
understand the teachers and their value. Yeah.
Absolutely. So when you're talking about a 2% increase, it's the flat. And as they've been here, they go through the steps.
Yeah.
And then obviously they move sideways if they get educational or professional opportunities.
Right.
So it depends on where they're moving to and what other things they've done, what they actually end up earning, and how
Right.
their salary changes. So if you look at the table behind me, squint, you can see it, maybe.
Oh, I understand it, but I think when you post something up like that and you say the teachers are going to get this much of a raise over this many years, it's mind-boggling because it doesn't really pose the right information. You have to look at this.
Correct.
Right. I just want to make that clear to everybody that that's
Yes.
an important piece
Yep.
of it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Butow.
Yeah, I am not here to move to end debate on this question. Yet, I have a question. And it relates to what you mentioned earlier about having had to add 5 new staff members since the last time we did this contract?
Yes.
Is that correct? So can somebody estimate how much of this contract would have been reduced, total cost, if we hadn't had that growth? In other words, how much of that cost is due to natural growth of the staff?
We're pulling in the business admin.
Yeah.
Because
I know this is going to be a rough number, but just to give us an
Totally,
idea, because
yeah.
clearly the contract would be smaller if we hadn't had to hire more staff, right?
Right. So I'm going to have Gina come up, and she's going to. Welcome, madam.
So it's actually 6 FTE that were added over the course of the contract.
Okay.
So we're at about 78 now. Some are part-time, et cetera, but we're at 78, would have been 72. So the increase of 6.
Okay.
That is what we're looking at. And I just want to take a moment to answer the question that was before. We have 19 folks on single, 10 on a 2-person, and 19 on a family plan. So.
So if you were to kind of average out their salary and their benefits, that's the difference between, for 6.
So like 8%,
average.
8% difference or something like that? I don't know. I'm just looking for a rough number.
Sure. Kelly.
You folks are asking tough questions.
I know, man. Just guess. So if they were making, looking at this step table, like right in the middle, they're making $70,000, and so that's just salary, multiply that by 6.
Right.
So you're talking about $420,000, and that doesn't include health insurance benefits,
Right.
and doesn't include, obviously, if they're more senior
Right.
versus more junior.
Understand, but thank you.
Of course. Thank you for the question.
Yes, sir.
Hi, my name is Victor Orlando, 266 Depot Road. Quick question, regarding when we were negotiating this new teaching contract, did any merit-based bonuses or things like that not come up? Is there a reason they're excluded? Is there a reason we don't have any?
Gina's going to come and talk about that one.
Thank you for the question. So that's not typically something that you see in a union negotiated contract. We actually tried that out in our co-op CBA years and years ago, and we found it to be completely ineffective, and so it has since been removed. So it's not something that we're looking to add back in.
Okay. The main reason I bring it up is because in almost every job field in the private sector, when you simply just do longevity and you've been here for this many years so you get a raise, what that results in is basically moderarity. No one's doing anything extra, because why would they? Why would you go out of your way to work as hard as you possibly can and then just get the same flat rate everyone else around you who's not pulling their weight does? You're encouraging people not to work hard. And the thing is, all of our teachers in this school district, no one's arguing they don't deserve a raise, because they do. We're arguing that this plan is not good for them, it's not good for us. By not having anything merit-based at all, even if it's small, nothing in there, you're encouraging all the teachers to do the bare minimum, and just, that's not what they're doing. And we're ripping them off.
Mr. Mann.
Robert Mann, 29 Nartoff Road. I served on the compensation committee and has also successfully negotiated numerous teacher contracts in this district. And I would hope to bring a unique perspective that I hope voters would consider. Converting the long-term insurance caps to percentages are not caps. They remove the ability for the district to manage risk, and they also, we had in the past handled any hardship of teachers by providing sidebars. So that's how we handled that. They also hindered the district to bring forward their best possible proposals during negotiation. The percentage caps scale automatically. That removes the opportunity to discuss, assess, and negotiate the appropriate level of dollar caps at the time you're discussing them. The second major problem I have with this is moving the teachers back on the salary table creates a structural problem with the table itself. It also drives costs significantly, causing the district to top out much faster when we're putting negotiations on the table. It locks the district into perpetual schedule changes every time you go to negotiate. And finally, over the next several negotiating cycles, if you notice the very bottom, step 20, more than 50% of your teachers are going to pool at that bottom. And over time, the jump between step 19 and 20 will grow. Historically, we've seen that jump easily being 8, 9, and 10% for no apparent reason.
Finish up.
Other than the structural issues that moving the teachers back on the table creates.
Yes, sir.
Austin Rios, 47 Farley Road. I just wanted to point out there's a lot of discussion around the 34% over 6 years. Inflation was 27% over the past 6 years, and the Fed is expecting at least 20 over the next 6 years. And the only reason I bring that up is those are large numbers. We're expecting to lose a lot of our income. I think all of us are, on top of the taxes. But no one should plan to have a flat income or even less income year over year. So when we're looking at 27 to 34, it's only really a 7% increase over a 6-year period of usable dollars. And that's assuming the federal government's telling you the truth, in which most cases are probably not. So thank you.
Tom, we have some first-time speakers here, so I'd like to let the two of them speak before you and Mr. Buto, please.
Come to the front of the class.
I was trying to gather my thoughts. Thank you. Mandy Hoffman, 13 Ironworks Lane. I think that for a lot of people, this scale looks very unfamiliar and frankly scary and intimidating. So I wanted to attest to, I am a proud union member of the Transportation Workers Union 579, and our steps look very similar to this. This is common, and I understand that each stepstone, while sometimes the people in the beginning have to, quote, pay their dues and may seem unfair, it is a very common stepping measure. It's come to negotiate within step 8 and step 9 when working on another point. So this is a common negotiating tactic, even though it may seem unfair, even though some of the jumps might be startling. For anybody else who is a union member, this is standard, and this is something that is familiar. And so for my fellow union members as teachers, thank you for all that you do. I am proud of your union as well.
Yes, sir.
David Doherty, 17 Ironworks as well. Just a quick note, it was earlier brought up that the 34% over 6 years is the 5.6%. Seemed excessive. Just note that one easy way to attain that kind of increase is by job hopping, which we're aiming to keep consistency and keep our teachers. Giving them the raise is a way to do that. Also leave. Thank you.
Mr. Enright.
So I was trying to make the same point that Rob was making. And I was talking about the lower earners getting it tucked to them, and that's not where we want to be. On the other hand, the high earners, and I'm talking about all of the off-step teachers, fare significantly better under this contract, under the proposed contract. For example, a $90,000 salary with a 5% increase gives you a $4,500 increase per year. A lower earner at $60,000 with a 5% increase gets $3,000 per year. So in that case, and the change system drives us to these cases, the higher earner gets 50% more dollars added to his or her salary than does the lower earner each and every year, and as far into the future as you can see. That's not fair. It's not the system we have followed successfully for years, where we have attempted to distribute all new money evenly among all teachers. I support all of our teachers, and that is why I will vote against this contract and ask for a new negotiation that keeps our current compensation system in place. Thank you.
Mr. Buto.
Probably not necessary at this point, but I would like to move to end debate.
This is a motion to end debate. There is nobody in line, so all discussion will cease if the motion passes. It requires a 2/3 vote. If you are in favor of ending debate at this point, please raise your cards. Thank you. If you are opposed, raise your cards. And the ayes have it. I have received a petition to make this a ballot vote. I need to make sure that the petitioners are in the room. Ms. Hicks, wave your hand. Bob Berkman. David Sullivan. David Sullivan. Thank you. I think it says Josie McMillan. Got it. And Hilda Berkman. All right, we have sufficient people to request it. When you checked in, you should have received one of these. So when we are ready, which we're not quite yet, there are ballot boxes somewhere in the back. It doesn't matter which box you use. Fill in the oval for yes or no and deposit it. This is not an extended vote. The vote will end as soon as everybody goes through and we're ready to pick up again. Melinda, are you ready to start voting? Not. All right, the polls are open. Is there anyone in the room who still is voting? Is there anyone in the room who still needs to vote? If there is, come on down because we're almost done here. Hurry, 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 hurry. I will ask. I don't see anyone more voting. Are we ready to close? Polls are closed. I have a voter who is missing a voting card, Vivian Johnson. If anyone picked one up on the floor, please bring it up to me. While they are counting, we will proceed with Article 3. Article 4, 3. This is the SAU budget. By law, this is also a ballot vote, and the totals from tonight will be added up with the totals from the co-op and Brookline School District, which we already have, for a grand total, and this will pass if the grand totals of yeses and nos make a simple majority. SAU budget. Shall the school district vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $773,470 as the Hollis School District's portion of the SAU budget of $2,438,355 for the forthcoming fiscal year. This year's adjusted budget of $2,389,654 with $758,022 assigned to the school budget of this school district will be adopted if the article does not receive a majority vote of all the school district voters voting in this school administrative unit. The estimated net tax impact is 26 cents a thousand. The school board recommends this Article 500. The Budget Committee recommends this Article 800. This will be voting by secret ballot. No extended voting. The polls will be open just like this last one until all the voters attending have voted. Ms. Johnson, I have your voting card. Moved by Carol Roy, seconded by Rafi Zach. Mr. Zach.
Okay. Hello. So for some of you that might be newer, I figured I would point out a couple differences here relative to the previous warrant articles. So bear with me if you're a long-time attendee of these meetings. One thing of note is this 773470 number is the total portion of the SAU budget for this year, as opposed to previous two warrant articles. We're talking about the estimated increases. Another thing about terminology that was new to me previously was the use of adjusted budget. That is referring to the fiscal year 25 approved budget plus increases due to debt service contracts or other obligations previously incurred, minus any one-time expenditures. So that's kind of how you have that difference between the $2,438,355 and the $2,389,654. Next, the committee that worked on this budget involved Hollis District, Brookline District, the Co-op District, as well as the SAU representatives to make sure that everybody was involved. And to give you an idea on the makeup of the SAU, for those less familiar, it's composed of superintendent and assistant superintendent, business office, maintenance, human resources, student services, and information technology. Then we could go to the next slide. To give a sense of the composition of the budget, vast majority, I think it's about 93%, are salaries and benefits, so that's the large chunk there. And on this slide, we're showing that the proposed amount relative to fiscal year 25 is a 2.5% increase. So the dollar amount is at $60,593. The bottom table that you see there, those are the major drivers, so that's not showing every item. It's showing the larger numbers that led to that 60,000. So salaries are that the resulting salary increase of 12,326. That's involving some savings because of the change in superintendent salary, but then also taking into account the 4% increases, and then the minus $48,083 are based on the change in the funds available relative to the previous year. So I think that's what I have.
Is there any discussion on Article 3? Mr. Butow.
Yeah, I'm a little curious about the change in available funds to offset costs. Where do those funds come from?
Last year, in anticipation of the superintendent change, we realized that we were going to potentially be able to keep this, what I'll call cost neutral, about the $12,000. So we were able to use the unreserved fund balance that the SAU has and use $48,000 basically as revenue. That doesn't exist this year, and that's why we go from the 48 plus the 12.
No, it was coming out of unexpended fund balance
Correct.
previously. Okay, thank you. Just wanted to know.
Is there any other discussion on Article 3? Well, I'm not going to call a vote yet because we're still counting Article 2, so we'll just sit quietly for a few minutes. Chat gently with your neighbors. District meetings are important legislative opportunities because we vote on real dollars and so on. But they're also social opportunities. It's a chance when you get to meet with people that you don't usually see. have one of those tear ones? Oh, it was, yeah. That's why I vary things from election to election. Survey says, yes, 165, no, 99. The collective bargaining agreement is accepted. Meanwhile, I will add them up the vote on the entire district, entire SAU, and I'll have those numbers in a few minutes. We are ready to vote on Mr. Boteau.
I'd like to restrict reconsideration of Articles 1 and 2.
Motion to restrict reconsideration on Articles 1 and 2. That would be moved by Mr. Boteau, seconded by Mr. Mann. This is a majority vote. If you're in favor of restricting reconsideration of Articles 1 and 2, please raise your cards. If you are opposed, please raise your cards. And the ayes have it. As I was going to say, you can now go to the supervisors and the ballot clerks, go to any one, you don't have to go to the original one, and you'll get a new ballot. It'll be a different color, and you can use it for this vote on the SAU budget.
Bring your voting card.
Has everybody voted who wants to? Yeah, I said, but, you gotta listen. I know. Part of the confusion was they didn't hand out the second ballot ahead of time.
Right. Yeah, I think that's what it is.
Is there anybody in the room who's still to vote? I see one. All right, I'm going to close the polls on Article 3 and move on to 4. The SAU Building Maintenance Expendable Trust Fund. To see if the school district will vote to raise and appropriate a sum of $23,970 to be added to the previously established Maintenance Expendable Trust Fund for administrative and associated structures at 4 Lund Lane in Hollis, map 56, lot 2. This amount to come from the unassigned fund balance available for transfer on July 1 of this year. This amount represents rental proceeds and unexpended maintenance funds to be received from SAU 41. Further, to name the board as agents to expend from the fund. Majority vote required. Estimated net tax impact of 0. School board recommends this article at 500. The budget committee recommends this article 800. Moved by Carol Roy, seconded by Rafi Zach. Ms. Kellner.
Thank you, Drew. So this is an article that you've seen in the past, and just to refresh your memory, the Hollis School District owns and maintains the property at 4 Lund Lane, which is where the SAU administrative offices are located, and they charge the SAU rent for the space. The purpose of this article is to allocate the rental income to the expendable trust, which serves as a savings account for major maintenance. The way this trust fund works is major expenditures are proposed by the administration. Final approval of the expenditures is made by the school board with input from the budget committee. The projected opening balance is $108,731. We are asking for funding of $23,970. And then the proposed project is to rebuild the porch due to safety concerns. And if that happens, the ending balance will be $87,701.
Thank you. Is there any discussion on Article 4? Seeing none, we will bring it to a vote. All in favor of Article 4, please raise your cards. All opposed, raise your cards. And the ayes have it. Article 5, the School Buildings Expendable Maintenance Trust Fund. To see if the school district will vote to raise and appropriate up to the sum of $125,000 to be added to the previously established School Buildings Expendable Maintenance Trust Fund from the Hollis School District's June 30, 2025 unassigned fund balance available for transfer on July 1, 2025. Majority vote required. The estimated net tax impact is 0. The potential foregone tax reduction of 4 cents a thousand. The school board recommends this Article 500. The budget committee recommends this Article 800. Moved by Carol Roy, seconded by Raphael Zach. Ms. Lenz.
Good evening. So similar to the last article, this is again an article that we've seen regularly in the past. This functions as a saving account to carry forward funds for major building maintenance. It avoids spikes, unexpected spikes, when we have things that we are repairing or changing. This is funded from the unreserved fund balance surplus. This is not funded from new taxation. In terms of oversight, how is this managed? Major expenditures are proposed by the administration. The school board then evaluates those proposals and presents them to the budget committee for input, and then the school board makes the final decision of expenditures. You can see in 2026, our projected opening balance is $230,000. We're proposing funding $125,000 for the following projects. There's an elevator retrofit at Hughes that would cost $38,000. Classroom flooring at the lower level at Hughes that would cost $35,000. Entrance security upgrades at Hughes that would cost $25,000. Girls' bathroom stall replacements at Hughes, which cost $20,000. An administrative office flooring replacement at Hughes that costs $7,500. And an exterior door removal and replacement at Hughes, which would cost $5,000. The total cost of those proposed expenditures are $130,500, and the projected 2026 ending balance would be $224,500.
Is there any discussion on the school building's expendable maintenance trust fund? Seeing none, if you are in favor of $125,000 for this fund, please raise your cards. If you are opposed, please raise your cards. And the ayes have it. Article 6, I will tell you that I have received a petition for a ballot vote on this one, but we need to get through it first. Preparation for potential HPS expansion. To see if the school district will vote to raise and appropriate up to the sum of $164,400 to be used to study, test, and prepare documents and materials to support a potential future bond to expand the Hollis Primary School based on current and anticipated future enrollment. Majority vote required. The estimated net tax impact is 6 cents a thousand. The school board recommends this Article 500. The budget committee recommends this Article 800. Moved by Carol Roy, seconded by Rafi Zach. Presentation by Ann Wake de Pasquale.
While I'm presenting, if you'd like to have more information about this, if you've missed some of the other presentations that have gone on over the past couple months, please consider, you can Google SAU 41 Enrollment Committee. Under Documents in 2025, you can find the PowerPoint from the information session that Mrs. Bickey and I ran back then. You also can see on January 14th, at the Budget Committee public hearing, there's also another slide presentation that also provides more information about this proposal. So the purpose of this study is to fund a comprehensive site assessment, architectural consulting services necessary to plan a potential renovation and expansion of the Hollis Primary School building, including improved site access, circulation, and parking. So why is this necessary? So I'm going to be talking about numbers over the past 10 years just to make things concise for everybody. So over those past 10 years, we've increased by 39 students, but our spatial needs have increased by 7 classrooms. What does that mean? Anyone who's paid attention to education knows that things change all the time. Not only do we have more children, but we also provide more services. That means more reading specialists, more math specialists, more intensive needs specialists working with our children in classrooms to accommodate all of that. The Department of Education specs also require 50 square feet per child. Our current classrooms are already at the limit for this population, and some rooms are over. We have a cafeteria that is also our gymnasium. Pressure on that cafeteria has increased with the addition of full-day kindergartners and overall increased enrollment. That cafeteria is also a gymnasium, and that space dominates the scheduling and it limits our programming at the school. It is a nightmare for our PE teacher, our custodial staff, and our principal, who's trying to make that school run every day. And our latest NASDAQ projections, please forgive me, the number here is incorrect. It's at 435 students in 5 years with a 43 increase from where we are now. So how have we been coping to date? And parents in this room probably are aware that last year we had to convert the beautiful learning commons that we had that provided opportunities not only for our students that needed extra support, but also enrichment activities for our students such as chess, different kinds of group work with our technology instructor, with programming and additional challenging information for them, in addition to just having a beautiful library that had to get cut down and turned into 3 classrooms because we could not accommodate the students that we had. That library is now in a former classroom. We have a pre-K classroom that is located in an open hallway. If you go to that presentation that I mentioned, the documents from January 29th, there is a picture of that, and if you attended, you got to see it for yourself. The 2 hours out of the day, we have a morning preschool classroom conducted in a hallway outside of other classrooms. Our administrators are sharing offices, we've combined service areas, and we have converted 4 utility closets into staff offices. And to address this, we created the Enrollment Committee in March 2024. It's also noteworthy that lovely teacher that you saw here earlier today who had our children up here singing for us, she is in a room that half of which is comprised of storage because there is no place for all of the equipment that she needs to deliver the wonderful curriculum that she's trying to deliver. So what does this warrant article provide? We have obtained preliminary proposals for civil and site engineering services, which would include the pre-design, design, soil and wetlands analysis, land survey, permitting, meetings, etc. It's going to provide us with a traffic study, which would provide transportation planning and engineering consulting services. Anybody who has been down 122 during morning drop-off or pick-up at the end of the day, you know that you're going to be sitting at that light for an awfully long time. We are hoping that as we replan the layout of our school, we can also figure out how to better direct that traffic. In summary, this warrant article is necessary to pave the way to a better educational experience for our students, teachers, and administrators, safer classroom conditions, maintaining the high standards for education and student-to-teacher ratios, which we in this town value and we have benefited from greatly, and improve traffic for the town on Route 22. I welcome your questions and your comments.
Discussion on Article 6. Mr. Matthews.
Yeah, my name is Bill Matthews, Crestwood Drive. One of the things I would strongly encourage you to study is moving the 3rd grade up to the house upper elementary school and reconfiguring as necessary the lower primary school for pre-K through 2. My understanding is there's plenty of room at the house upper elementary school for grade 3. I know there's some challenges to accommodate the building to move just pre-K to 2, but I'd encourage that to be one of the options that's presented, as well as the bond for an expansion. Thank you.
Thank you.
Ms. Opelka.
I just have a question. Can I ask questions but not propose an amendment at the same?
Yeah, I mean, questions is part of what we do here.
Can I do both?
Yes.
Okay, thank you very much. I've read a lot of your minutes. I've gone to your open house. My children have attended the school there when it was K through 6. So imagine that. And at one point we did have portables until we were awaiting for the high school to be built. You guys have been working at quite at warp speed if anybody reads your minutes. And I read it and I said, this is a fait accompli, you're going for a bond. And like Bill Matthews, when he went to the hearing, I also appreciated his input about asking for some information that I really feel that should be included in this study. Not necessarily the money, because you're assuming you're going to go for a bond.
Can you get to your question?
There is an elephant in the room here regarding any expansion. If you don't have water, you can't open school. I can see the November 2022 Water System Feasibility Assessment final report at the town website, and I see the Hollis Facility Improvement Plan of $50,000 for a water system / Rocky Pond study. Do you expect a different kind of study and different results? That's also only planned for 2029. That will be too late for your expansion and also your proposed bond that's supposed to be maybe phased in. The Lund Lane was an apple orchard at one time. Use of pesticides was an issue, as was arsenic when the town bought it. These things need to be taken into account and the soil retested. I would greatly like to see documentation of a study on the pros and cons of moving the 3rd grade up to the Hughes, or a school swap, or eliminating pre-K. I believe pre-K is not mandated in New Hampshire. Hollis could eliminate pre-K to free up space. Yes, I know there is a special education population of 3 to 5-year-olds. My son was one of those people who went to a private preschool among his peers. He then had speech and language, OT, and academic services at the Hollis preschool while he was at his private preschool. I transported him to every therapy at Hollis Primary School when those therapies were scheduled. Special ed, 3 to 5-year-olds can be placed in community programs among their peers.
Finish up, please.
Okay. And lastly, Hollis cannot afford to give valuable space to children who are not residents of Hollis. If one non-resident child tips the grade numbers over the ed specs, it opens up an added expense for a classroom and teacher, and most probably a para.
Okay, you're done for now.
Okay.
You can go to the end
May
of the
I
line.
address
and-
some of the things that were said there, or are we
I'm
just
sorry?
going to, should I address some of the comments that were made?
No, she didn't ask a question. I didn't hear a question in there. I heard a long speech.
I
didn't hear a question.
asked about the documentation of any kind of consideration for other options that you've studied.
Well, if you said you were at the open house, as you know, we did address other things that have been considered, and we will continue to consider. Among them is we have discussed moving the possibility of moving the third grade to Hughes. The major challenge with that is our fire codes. So you saw how there is a ramp on one floor where we currently have second grade students. We are not allowed by New Hampshire fire codes, and we have talked to Jen Gavestes on multiple occasions about this. She's our inspector at the fire department. She will not allow pre-K, kindergarten, or first grade to be housed on that floor because of that New Hampshire law, fire code. Now, that was not in place a long time ago when we had, you're saying K through 6. If you want to know the exact year that went into place, I would have to do a search for that. But things change all the time. Now, Mrs. Vicky used to have children that age on that floor. She had children in the staff room, which you saw currently has 3 steps leading up to a window, which you really can't get out of safely, where teachers can get out of for the staff room. She used to have children in there until, of course, she was told that was not legal. Many things were available before, which are not available currently. Laws change, regulations change, and also mandates change regarding what we are required to provide for our students with special needs. And so when people's children who went to this school 10, 15 years ago, there were different regulations than now. I promise you, I am a taxpayer. I am not just on the school board. I am a resident here. My children will not benefit from the changes that are going to happen at this school. I am going to be looking out for a deal that is fiscally responsible and addresses the educational needs of our children and the needs of our administrators and our teachers. But the reality is we currently have a preschool in the center of a hallway. We have an internationally recognized teacher who has moved every single year she has been at our school because we have not had space for her. So, things change over time. We moved to full-day kindergarten, and we went from 2 classrooms to 5 classrooms. Our pre-K has gone from 1 to 3 classrooms. We have an intensive needs classroom. That's another classroom. Now we have environmental science. That's 7 classrooms that housed up to 20 students before that we cannot house now. The situation is dire. This is for a study. And in that study, we will be understanding the land, the soil, what is around, what permitting might be available, and we are going to explore every option that we can. But the reality is the situation right now is untenable.
Okay, if you're going to continue the conversation, let's let other people speak now. I have the vote on Article 3, the SAU budget. Yes, 125, no, 49. Combine that with the Brookline School District vote of yes, 566, no, 421, and the co-op vote of 166 to 67. We have a grand total of yes, 857, no, 537. So the SAU budget passes the district, the SAU. Ms. Hicks.
Pam Hicks, 8 Maple Knoll Drive. I was wondering if you could tell us what the impacts of the new construction, the new homes that have gone in the last 5 years have done for the enrollments at the elementary school.
It's hard to tell. So we have invited Kevin Anderson, who is our town planner, to start attending our meetings, and we've met with him recently. But we're actually in the process of also consulting with Mark Frogere, who's our consultant with the planning board. We found it very difficult to track. So you have some developments such as Keys Hill. Not too many children came in from there. But you see that there's building happening all the time. Racinen is approved for a 35-unit construction. So that exact data, while we're trying to obtain it, we have multiple emails going back and forth trying to pin it down. It's hard because we also have, as you've heard probably Mr. Corey say on multiple occasions in meetings, we used to have people come in where kids were already in the school, but people are moving in with toddlers and babies now. So we're having a very hard time tracking that. And that was actually, it's been a topic of conversation because we are also thinking for a while, is this a bubble? Is this something that will pass? And we realized it just isn't. We're already there.
Okay, and that was my question because we have had bubbles before.
Yes.
We've had very large classes go through. And in an effort to not do a knee-jerk reaction, I mean, are there other things we can do? Like we have had, it doesn't sound very nice, but like the trailers or moving, classrooms
Yeah.
from one school to another or whatnot. And I know it's not a discussion for here tonight, but we have this incredible building that is going on. These builders are coming in. They are maxing out their developments. I don't think the town is doing a very good job on trying to minimize the developments. They're allowing waivers and all sorts of things, and I think we need to do a better job minimizing those. But I think the biggest issue is that they're coming in, they're building, and they're putting some significant resource issues on us. So they make their money, and we, the taxpayers, are stuck picking up all of the new people that are coming in for our public services. And I don't know if anything can be done for mitigation monies or something that in the future that these builders, and I know this has been a topic at times, but these builders would actually have to have monies be put into the town to help offset these costs.
We actually asked that of Kevin Anderson when we met with him, and he said we needed to have a capital improvement plan in place. And so please come on Saturday. That is a formation of a committee to develop such a plan. Is up for the vote. And if that happens, then once that capital improvement plan is in place, we can start charging educational assessment fees and other fees for the municipalities.
Okay, I'm very glad to hear that because that absolutely needs to happen. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Ms. Fareed.
Tammy Fareed, 9 Winding Valley Road. I have served on the school board for a number of years, and I am now free to say I resent any suggestion that these efforts are run through at lightning speed or any other euphemisms about things going too fast. The superintendent has been talking about enrollment pressures for 3 years, since even during COVID. My last year on the board ended last March. We talked about it at every meeting. The past year that I have been blissfully unaware of what the school board has talked about
We miss you, Tammy.
No, you don't, and I know you don't. Has been fixated on this topic. It's a subject that has been visited at, I'm sure, every budget committee meeting, which I have also been blissfully unaware of. And so anyone who wants to vote on this needs to not accept any assertion that this problem has not been widely discussed and brought forward for several years. I am concerned as a former parent that any suggestion of arsenic, et cetera, the waters in all of our school buildings are tested more than annually, is it monthly, for 1 million different pathogens and other contaminants, and so do not worry about the drinking water in your schools.
Lindsay McGovern, 373 Pine Hill Road. First off, thank you, Anne, for this presentation. I just felt the need to come up and say that if this is your first time hearing this presentation, this does not even, this is the tip of the iceberg. I've heard this presentation given a couple of times. This committee has thought of and has not left a single stone unturned in trying to think of ways to improve the space at the primary school. If you were not there to take the tour and see with your eyes that they have literally used every square inch of that school to accommodate the growing numbers, it's amazing what they have done. What I'm about to say is not a knock on what they've done, but it is unacceptable that there is a kindergarten class in a hallway. It is unacceptable that there are specialists literally in closets as their office space, and they deserve more for what they provide for our children. One last thing that I just wanted to say is I know $164,000 is a lot. It's about, I think, $40, $42 a household. But if people, again, this is
They are asking for this to do the homework and do their due diligence and get the information on all the really great suggestions that have already been voiced here. They need to get that information, and that is what that will go for. It is not just for the school, it is also for the public. Please correct me if I'm wrong, but I heard at one of these meetings the chief of police would love to see this go through because this traffic on 122 is a safety concern for our children and for our residents of Hollis. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Hi, my name's Victor Orlando, 266 Depot Road. Couple things. For one, I definitely think the school needs to be expanded, but one thing I would like to see is a little bit more transparency in how they're budgeting this $164,000. Like, how much is set aside for architectural plans? How much is set aside for surveying? How much is set aside for each specific thing? And how are we bidding out those projects out so we're not just essentially picking one service and letting them charge us whatever they want because they know someone or something like that. The other thing I think we should also be doing is balancing this with other options and not just saying, oh, we need to expand the school. At some point, as enrollment continues to increase, which it will because Hollis is a desirable town, especially if you're looking to retire and there's someone who's willing to pay $1 million for a little single family house because they want their kids going to the best school, what's going to happen is more and more kids are going to come here. More and more kids are going to come here. This expansion isn't going to be the last one. We should also be looking at costs in terms of what if we separate from Brookline and we look at Hollis as an individual, because then it gives us the flexibility to move 5th grade up to the middle school and 3rd grade up to the upper elementary school. There's plenty of room in the middle school, plenty of room in the high school. We should be looking at how much that's going to cost us versus expanding, because the problem with these expansions is it seems like every few years we need another expansion, we need another expansion, we need another expansion. We're not fixing the problem, we just keep digging a hole and dumping the dirt back into it. Thank you.
And the preliminary proposals that we received are linked into our minutes. If you go through them, I'm sorry, I can't tell you exactly which site, but those are linked in and you can see them. And I made the promise at the open house, we will consistently be posting in our minutes what's being spent and to where.
Yes, sir.
Hi, Todd Coolidge, 10 Colburn Lane. I would like to motion to end debate.
Okay, we have a motion here to end debate. Is there a second? Yes, sir. All right, I can't hear much. What's your name? The main one who made the motion.
Todd Coolidge.
Todd Coolidge. And the person who seconded?
Brian Loveland? Brian Loveland?
Brian Loveland. This requires a 2/3 vote. If you are done voting, done hearing the discussion and want to vote on it, please raise your cards. If you are opposed, please raise your cards. And the ayes have it. Thank you. Now, this is going to be a ballot. Well, actually, it's not yet. Stop. Joe Park, wave your hand. Pam Hicks, Ada Stevens, Charlie Stevens, and Mike Julian. Okay, we have 5. This is going to be a ballot vote. Again, you can go to the ballot clerks and get a replacement ballot. And then ballot polls are now open. Has everyone voted who wants to? Seeing no one else will vote, I close the polls. Mr. Buteau.
I'd like to move to restrict reconsideration of Articles 3, 4, and 5.
Okay, a motion to restrict, seconded by Mr. Mann. All in favor, this is for Articles 3, 4, and 5. All in favor of restricting 3, 4, and 5, please raise your cards. Thank you. All opposed? And the articles are restricted. We will proceed to Article 7 while our dedicated counters do their thing. Contingency Fund. To see if the school district will vote to establish a contingency fund for the current year for unanticipated expenses that may arise, and further to raise and appropriate a sum of $95,000 to go into the fund. This sum to be raised by taxation. Any appropriation left in the fund at the end of the year will lapse to the general fund. Majority vote required. Net tax impact 3 cents a thousand. The school board approves this Article 500. The Budget Committee recommends this Article 800. Moved by Carol Roy, seconded by Rafi Zach. Ms. Roy.
Thank you, Moderator Drew. You're welcome. So, we have to have some fun with Drew. We appreciate him stepping in while Ms. Brown couldn't be here, so thank you, Drew. We appreciate you. The purpose of, yes. I'll buy you another bag of Rolos. The purpose of the contingency fund is to cover unanticipated major expenses that might arise during the school year. For example, the funds might be needed to help defray the cost of an additional classroom teacher if there's a dramatic increase in summer enrollments, or help to defray the cost of an unexpected maintenance need. The funds are only available if the board votes in favor of the expenditure after a public hearing is held, so we can't just appropriate these places. Unused funds are released to the general fund at the end of the fiscal year. And to be clear, the general fund is where dollars end up, and that is what we can generally give back to the public when they are unexpended. This is one of those articles that happens every year. So it's very familiar to all of us and probably to you folks who've been here a few times. But happy to answer any questions if any exist.
Discussion of Article 7. Seeing none, all in favor of a contingency fund for $95,000, please raise your cards. Thank you. All opposed, raise your cards. And the ayes have it. Article 8. The operating budget. To see if the school district will vote to raise and appropriate a sum of $16,950,312 for the support of schools, for the payment of salaries for the school district officials and agents, and for the payment of statutory obligations of the district. This appropriation does not include appropriations voted in other warrant articles. Majority vote required. Estimated net tax impact, $5.80 a thousand. The school board recommends this article 500. The budget committee recommends this article 800. Moved by Tom Guillen, seconded by Carol Roy. Mr. Guillen.
Must be my magnetic personality. Okay. Operating budget. Each year, early in the budget cycle, the Budget Committee sets guidance for both the town and the Hollis School District. Co-op goes through a similar process for the co-op, where we provide guidance on how we feel the budget should move. This past year, our guidance to the Hollis School Board was a 0% increase. Now that's tempered somewhat or altered somewhat by some items that are outside of guidance. For example, special education costs. We exclude those from guidance because it's a very volatile cost type, and we don't want to have one of two things or either thing happen where if special education costs go down, which has happened in the past, that would leave a windfall, if you will, in the budget baseline. So we exclude it. By the same token, as we saw in this year, sometimes the special education costs go up significantly, and we exclude it so that it doesn't crowd out regular programming for the rest of the students. So as you can see here, the math worked out that the guidance budget, as we requested, would come at just over $17 million. The proposed budget that we're going to review right now in this article came in $113,635 underneath that amount. We, that was an iterative process, and appreciate the effort of the administration and the school board to bring that down a little bit. First question we often get is, what is the impact on the staff, on student-facing personnel? There are no staffing changes in this budget. I'll go over the major movers, the major increases and decreases. I mentioned just a moment ago or alluded to special education costs that we hold outside of guidance. You can see a number of those costs are significant movers. Transportation increased $114,000. Health insurance, small percentage, only 4%, but because the base is so big, that equates to $56,000. Contracted services, the school board and the administration tries to maximize delivery of service to special education students within the district. Sometimes we don't have the appropriate staff. We either have to tuition out or we have to contract with specialists to provide in-district services. So those costs increased about $53,000. Speech pathologists, this is actually an open position. We increased that to kind of mark to market. The position hadn't been looked at because it's been vacant for a number of years. I was talking to Kelly on break a few moments ago that speech pathologists along with school psychologists are among the roles that are very difficult to fill. So it's been open for a while, and put a budget line under there to better reflect what we would anticipate the cost to be. And finally, retirement benefits is a contractual benefit for a limited number of retirees. Last year, we had no expense there and added in $41,600 for budgeting purposes, so you can see the increase. We talk about the decreases. Classroom teachers' salaries went down about 2%. When I had remarks about the teacher contract, I made note of the fact that every year the teacher contract is up as a separate warrant article. It's not in the budget. So as a result, kind of see the impact of the current compensation structure. I think we had some relatively junior teachers come in and may have replaced more tenured folks at a lower cost. Bond interest came down $28,000. Lane changes, those are reported by the staff as they attain them throughout the year, but for budgeting purposes, there's an expectation that we'll see fewer of those in the coming year. Nurse salary, that was another kind of salary arbitrage situation where a more senior person went out and was backfilled with someone with a lower expense level. And finally, maintenance salaries came down about 4% or $14,000. And I think that's what I have. Okay.
I have the results from the Article 6 construction study. Yes, 109, no, 37, and the article passes. Is there discussion on Article 8? Mr. Butow.
Yeah, I have a question about the speech pathologist thing. Is that somebody we've been trying to hire for a couple of years or something, and we haven't been able to fill the position? So if we budget that again for this year, but we still can't fill the position, what happens? Does that money go into the unexpended fund balance or what?
A lot of that money would still be used for contracted services because we're required to provide the services.
Okay, we just wouldn't have the hired staff to do it.
Correct.
So actually it might cost us more because we have to contract it out.
Correct.
Okay.
So, and whatever would not be spent would fall down and go into the surplus and be returned to the taxpayers.
Okay, thank you.
Seeing no further discussion, I'm going to take a divergence for a moment. We had an election yesterday, and members of the Hollis School District and the Co-op School District were elected, and we can swear them in. So if any of those folks are here and are ready to be sworn in, the Co-op folks should see Diane. The Co-op folks should see me, and the Hollis School District folks should see Diane. I would also kind of jump the gun and make a personal expression of appreciation for Andy Corey. As moderator, I've had the opportunity to work with him for 10 or 12 years, something like that, and I've always appreciated his willingness to work across the diverse viewpoints in the district and support me in what I've had to do. So, Carol, you want to take a moment right now?
I just whispered to Drew that I wanted to say something, and then he starts saying something. I'm like,
I had
all right.
already planned this.
Andy Corey has been the superintendent of this district for 10 years and has guided us with calmness. He's very cool, he's very collected, he's very smart, and he cares deeply about the students of this district. We will miss you. This is a well-deserved retirement, and thank you for everything that you've done for us.
All right, we're ready to vote. I would like to count this one, Melinda. I'm not going to spend $16 million on a eyeball vote. If you are in favor of a budget, operating budget of $16,950,312, please raise your cards. Okay, you can put them down. All opposed, please raise your cards. Thank you. And yes is 101, no is 2. The budget passes. Is that the price for returning my pen? Motion is to restrict reconsideration of Articles 6, 7, and 8 made by Ms. Roy. Second. Second by Mr. Mann. All in favor of our restricting reconsideration of Articles 6, 7, and 8, raise your cards. Thank you. All opposed, please raise your cards. And they are restricted. Mr. Garuba.
Thank you. Under Article 9, I would like to move to take a motion for the sense of the meeting to see if this body will recommend to the school board to hold this annual meeting in a larger venue next year.
You know what'll happen is we'll have 40 people in the main gym. Is there a second? I think the Holly Babcock, chair of the co-op, seconds. Move to a larger venue for this meeting. Is there discussion? Can you buy it? All in favor of having this meeting in a larger venue, please raise your cards. Thank you. All opposed? Looks to me like the ayes have it. Mr. Mann.
To dissolve the meeting.
Motion to dissolve. Moved by Mr. Mann, seconded by Ms. Roy. All in favor of dissolving, raise your cards. Thank you. All opposed, raise your cards. We are done.